Welcome to Build Your Best Business. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. Build Your Best Business focuses on the entrepreneurial journey. What does it take to successfully start, manage, grow, and eventually exit a business? We're coming to you from Charleston, South Carolina, courtesy of Sea Change. They're letting us use their space this week so we can talk to some companies in the Charleston area. Today we have Gray Anderson. He is with Flugel Consulting.
Yes.
I got all that right.
Flugel, yes.
Flugel, yes. So because the name doesn't necessarily tell us what Flugel does, tell us, what is Flugel Consulting?
Flugel Consulting, we two-man show, business partner Taylor Raines. He's upstairs right now, actually. And we guess in a short couple of words, we are online retail consultants. We've both have a marketing and public relations background, and now we work primarily with e-commerce businesses and help grow their business.
Yeah. So talking about that from the perspective, are you working with them to put like a shopping cart in place, or is it to promote the
Yes,
goods,
we've come on board with different businesses at different times, whether they have an idea or a concept that we're looking to get launched for them. We find the appropriate partner and build out the platform and take it live, or either we come into a business that has kind of plateaued and work with them from that point and take them kind of to the next level. So.
Okay. So it's kind of an interesting, because there's all this technology that has to be put together to get a business to work online, and people don't often think about that, right? And the shopping cart piece of it can be an interesting challenge, right?
Yeah.
You know,
yeah. We are partners with Shopify. I don't know if you're familiar with that platform. It's very awesome. I think it's the Apple of e-commerce platforms. Very intuitive. Child could use it, essentially navigate the back end infrastructure. It's all in one. It's a great platform to use, but we also have clients on other platforms, WooCommerce, Magento, and so yeah, we kind of find the best fit depending on the nature of the business.
And so then the obvious question that everybody wants to know is, how did you come up with the name Flugel Consulting?
If anyone is a fan of 80s Tom Cruise movies, then they might catch on to what Flugel is. I've had, I believe, actually two people in the last 4 years of having Flugel Consulting, and someone recognized what Flugel came from. It's from the movie Cocktail. Tom Cruise is sitting on a dock in a Caribbean island and talks about his, this is going to sound bad, his get-rich-quick scheme, and has on his shoelace, talks about what the cap on the end of a shoelace is, and he says it probably has some crazy name like Flugel Binder, and this guy is sitting on a beach somewhere. So yeah, so we don't tell anyone. That's what that came from.
Told just a few people.
Yeah,
that's okay. Yeah. So how did you get into it? How did you decide that this was what you wanted to work on or wanted to do?
With online retail businesses?
Yeah, like, I mean, you decided to put this consultancy together. Were you working somewhere else and decided you could do it on your own? Or
I was working at a mid-size marketing public relations agency in Charleston, and Taylor actually was working there at the same time I was. Worked there for about 3 years, him about 4 years, and we kind of got to talking. I was in a different department with him. He was on more of the account management side, and I was in PR, social media. We were working on another project, a passion project on the side, and in doing so kind of found that we both had our own strengths in the industry, and decided that, hey, we could maybe pick up had this business model to help these online businesses grow, and after talking about it probably twice, we decided to start a business together, and came up with the model, started trying to find clients on the side while we were working at this agency, not to get involved with any non-competes or anything like that. So we found a business that was new out of Atlanta that we met with a few times, and they took a chance with us, and we, I guess, took a chance trying to start our own business, and ended up working really well, doubled revenue the first year that we worked with them, and started to have consistent growth every year after that. About 6 months after starting that business, working with that business, we picked up one or two more clients on the side, and got to the point where we just didn't have enough hours in the day, and jumped ship, and hustled for a couple of years, and then kind of got into our rhythm with e-commerce businesses, and
what you're
here we
doing.
are now. Yeah.
Yeah. So starting it off as a side hustle is really smart. You know, so a lot of people think about just jumping.
Yeah, we took about 6 months of what would be now our paycheck and kept it in the bank and didn't take any money from that and used that as our cushion. That realized that there's no way to tell what kind of cushion you need whenever you're starting your own business. We blew through that pretty quick
Right.
after leaving. Things that you don't need to think about. I mean, our office is fairly unnecessary as long as we have our computers. Our office, but we need you have a lot more overhead even with a consulting firm than you really think you do. So that kind of was the reality check really quick out of the gate.
So tell me about, you're working at an agency and, you're in one part and he's in another, and then you have this decision to go off and try something on the side. What was it you were looking for? Did you want to make more money than you could make at the agency? Did you want more freedom? Do you want more control?
I think a little bit of all of that. We wanted be a little more proud, respectful of the work that we were doing, put our name associated with it. Also something in e-commerce, you get immediate gratification for any action that you take. In most cases, you're able to look at an action that you take and look at the numbers and how it performs, and you know if it was a good move or a bad move right away, and you're able to adjust and pivot and turn. And I think that was something that we were looking forward to. I always use the example of being in a traditional agency. You spend 3 months working on a campaign for a display, for a billboard on 95 that 100,000 people are going to drive by in a day, and or in a month, and 5% of those people are qualified to be applicable for what the message that you're getting across, and of those 5%, maybe 1% of those convert, and then you have no attribution for what happened, for what actually happened there. So that's what we were looking for, more proof that what we were doing was growing this business, and we were able to do that with the clients that we started out with, and then we've also kind of adjusted as we've grown and started some businesses and been able to do that.
And that is, so many pieces of a business, and I'm more like you. Like, I like to see that what I've done is making some kind of difference.
Yeah.
And marketing specifically on that side can be something that it's a black hole, right? You put it in and you're not sure. As you move into the e-commerce piece, you do know, like, if I change this or move it around or adjust a button.
Yep.
I was talking to a guy the other day. I owned a research company for a number of years, and he had brought one of their products through our testing, and it was amazing to me. We moved one button over 4 pixels, and by moving it over 4 pixels, we increased their conversion rate by 1%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but this is a huge brand.
Yeah, and that's what
millions of dollars.
Every 1% in every different facet of the business helps out. So anything's moving an automated email deployment up an hour in a day might change the conversion rate or performance of that email, which is interesting to see, and that's the kind of things that we look at with our clients.
So signing that first customer, you said you didn't want to do anything that was competitive with the agency, but how did you find somebody who had the problem that you wanted to address? Like, talk to me about that.
I'm trying to think of how that actually happened. I think it's asking around, talking to people. We were working on another project. Taylor and I were at the time, the passion project that had some overlap with, and that could probably be a whole nother conversation about failed entrepreneurial experiences. But I think asking around, networking, talking to people, it was friends of friends, and we got connected with them, and we kind of right place at the right time. I think that's what a lot of this has been. Some of that. Well, you say that, but also it's like putting yourself in those places for those things to happen too. Yeah, so you got to get out there. I got to take the first step forward. Yeah. Well, we're going to take a commercial break, and when we get back, I want to talk a little bit about, you did this as a side hustle, so maybe you thought you had everything figured out, but once you decided to jump in, full time, was there something that you learned, something that was different? So we'll kind of talk about those lessons learned when we get back. So we're talking today with Gray Anderson. He is with Flugel Consulting, and you're listening to Build Your Best Business. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. We'll be back in just a minute.
Eric, tell us about Laddering Works.
So Laddering Works is a company that helps other businesses in one of two ways.
Okay.
So your company is either growing and you're not exactly sure how to keep up. So you need to scale operations, maybe raise some money, those kind of things.
So growing too fast.
Growing too fast. Growing too fast. You got kind of structural, you walk in every day, there's a fire. You've been doing it longer than 3 years or 1,000 days, and you still feel like you can't step away from the business and take a vacation. So we help companies on that side. So sort of operational support, looking at their financing, seeing if there's a way that we can help them, get to the next level. Or you're a company that's not doing any marketing at all. So you are maybe stalled. Your business has gotten to a certain level. You make a certain amount of money every year, but you've never gotten above that. And we come in and build marketing structure. So both of them are operational at the end of the day. It's about creating a process and a way to approach it that's strategic. It's that owners don't often know how to do both of those. So they're really good at sales, which means they may need operational structure because they're out signing more customers than they know what to do with. Or they've built a beautiful product that's the best kept secret. And so they need somebody to come in and help them market that product. And so that's the kind of businesses we look for. We come in as a stopgap, and we work with a company for somewhere around 12 to 18 months typically, solve those problems for them and leave them better than we found them. And we're back. You're listening to Build Your Best Business. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. Today we're talking with Gray Anderson. He is with Flugel Consulting, and we're coming to you from Charleston, South Carolina. And if you want to know what Flugel means, go back and listen to the first segment. So we were talking about, you're starting the business, you did it kind of as a side hustle. Yeah. And so, the decision to step out once you knew that you didn't have enough hours in the day and you had a lot of projects coming in, was it just like smooth? Did you just transition over into the new business, or were there things you learned you didn't expect?
Oh no, not smooth at all. The last 4 years have not been a smooth process at all. Leading up, probably the most difficult transition was the 6 months that we were working at our what I called our day job at the time. We had responsibilities, we had requirements of us that we were not letting that slip. We wanted to maintain those relationships, but so at 5 o'clock when our day job ended, go home, make a snack, go to the gym, do whatever you could do to vent, and then spend the next 4.5 hours at the library and at each other's house just working on our new business model, and did that every day for 6 months. And that was the transition from working 24 hours a day on two separate, having to switch gears like that, and then to working 24 hours a day on your own business, was definitely a difficult transition, or something that I didn't really expect. I thought it was just going to be kind of hit the ground running, and it wasn't. It was a lot of peaks and valleys, I think, right after we started. The one thing that I think comes to mind when I think about right after we started, we didn't have an office. We didn't have money for an office. We were working at each other's houses. I think my couch had an imprint in it where I would sit every day with my computer on my lap. And that was when we realized that we need to find an office space. We ended up trading development of an online store for sharing an office space with a client.
Oh, okay. That's smart. Bartering your way.
Yeah, bartering our way around. Anything in trade. Yeah. So as far as the transition, it wasn't what I expected, but it was, learning experience all in the same.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of emphasis on, work from home or work-life balance, and I'm nomadic. I basically just need my laptop in my bag and I can work anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I do end up at the house for a couple of days, and then I need to get out, right? Even if I have clients, I'm just like, I'm going to come hang out at your
trapped
office.
In that bubble that, of an entrepreneurial bubble, I think is what it is. Your days start to run together. There is no clock in, clock out. It's all the time, constantly checking email. And I'm sure in today's time, most people are experiencing that no matter what industry, and whether you work for yourself or employed by someone. I mean, it happens, but I think more so as an entrepreneur, you're constantly on the clock. So.
Yeah, when you don't have that separation from, like, I get in the car, go somewhere and work.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden it's always, you almost
breaking
feel guilty.
The day out.
You feel guilty, like, oh, well, my laptop's right there, I could be working.
Time management does become difficult, I think, no matter who you are at that point. But and peace of mind, you gotta kind of experience things. I don't know.
So you said 4 years or so in, and there's two of you still.
Yep.
Is that a purposeful decision? Have you followed the advice of every entrepreneur I've ever started working with who said my next business will have no employees?
I think that everyone's told me not even to have a business partner. It's easier to be run your own business. But I think Taylor and I are a good 1-2 punch. I think we both know what we bring to the table, and we respect what the other one brings to the table, and not try and, I guess, overstep on that. And I think that's what's kept us or gotten us this far. I don't know how much further it's going to get us, but it has gotten us this far. We contract work out. We have partners that I think in a lot of businesses, even agencies, are doing this now and working with contractors more often than hiring employees and more boutique style.
Yeah.
So not comparing us to an agency, but under that same umbrella, I guess. So.
Yeah, and there's been this shift specifically since 2008 around the concept of, companies used to sell your services on your behalf. Now you sell your services to different companies, which is safer for you because you end up with multiple clients versus working for one company. And if something goes wrong, then everything's with them, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting way that we look at work, specifically if you're knowledge workers.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to know what your scope of work is within your own business, though, when you're working with other partnering agencies of, well, we also offer this as a service, and there's a lot of, so you got to find a good fit. Some relationships work out, some don't, and you just got to accept that.
You should just be me. I'm a general contractor. I just bring in all kinds of people to do the work, and then I just make sure they do it.
Yep, that's all you need. Reliability is key. You got to find good workers.
So if you were to go back, starting the business either 4 years ago or something that happened 2 years ago, like is there some wishful thing you could go back and say, hey, this is going to happen, like either you're going to sign this client and it's not going to go well, or you're going to get this project and you need to do this? Is there some advice you would give yourself?
I think in the beginning there that we probably took on accounts. We had left our agency trying to start a business that was consulting primarily in marketing and public relations for online retail businesses, and we drifted from that right in the beginning just because it was going to be a guaranteed paycheck, put food on the table, and pay rent. Those, in hindsight, I would say that we would have, just because it was going to have immediate gratification having that paycheck come in, hold off and make sure you're sticking to your scope and staying focused on what your end goal was, because that's where we strayed in the beginning. It took, I think it was a waste of time almost for us to have to circle back and correct those, rebuild our portfolio in where we had initially tried to start out. And I don't know if that makes sense, that ramble right there, but
I think what you're saying is that, people will say we're going to focus on these kinds of customers, and then
then we ended up
other work
not.
shows up.
We had
we'll take it.
30% of those were what we had initially started out to do and to work to the type of businesses we wanted to work with. And then all of a sudden these other great clients that we started working with and had experience in, we gravitated back to what where we were coming from in that traditional marketing and public relations.
And it's hard. I mean, because that's a tenet of every company that I look at that's, trying to figure out from an operations perspective what to do. I'm like, well, who are your best clients? Like, who do you make the most money? Where's your niche? Like, what does that look like?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, but if we just focus on that, I'm like, well, then we know who you are and what you do. Right?
It's just staying true to what your goal was in the beginning and not getting sidetracked. And we definitely did. I mean, I think a lot of businesses probably do, but we were able to correct it. And at a point that it was either correct this or we don't press on, and we were able to do that, to pivot and turn. And now we have marketing and public relations is my background. I kind of always will have a passion for that, but I mean, we analyze every aspect of an e-commerce business, and we've even started a few of our own now. So
that's a good way
use that experience. It's to start our own businesses.
That diversification around something that that's where companies will falter, is they get too focused on one thing. But if you can diversify around a nucleus, like something that really well. So for thinking about and I wanted to come back to, you said talking, starting with a partner or whatever. Most of the successful businesses I've seen are partnerships.
Okay.
So because it's
good to hear.
like an inside-outside person. There's one person who's really good at sales, maybe somebody operations, or maybe one person's good at technology and the other is good at something else, right? So we say that myth of the lone wolf, entrepreneur, and you shouldn't. They work out better. I think we're, as human beings, meant to kind of collaborate. And
Yeah,
pair
you
up
need
on
someone to
stuff.
kind of reel you back in sometimes whenever you've
Or fill your gaps. The things
exactly
you do
yeah,
well
yeah.
versus what you don't.
No,
do
it's
well.
easier to identify strengths and weaknesses. I think when you have someone else that isn't afraid to tell you what your strengths and
Right.
weaknesses are. So.
Well, it's very much like a marriage because you tell them that, and then you still have to like each other afterwards, right? Yeah. So, if you think about sort of future, what's the future look like for you all?
I mean, hopefully, growing these businesses or continuing to have solid relationships with our existing clients, and then grow these businesses that we've used our experience over the last 4 years to develop now. So, I'd like to continue to add more and more businesses under our umbrella that we are managing, that we have final say in what goes on, because as a consultant, I'm sure as you well know that you can make a recommendation,
Right.
but the client doesn't always listen. So
It's always that. This is exactly what I'm telling you to do.
yes, so
It's your business.
the only person I have to get approval from is Taylor right now, and I'd much rather have to just get it from him than him and
Right.
a whole set of other people. So yeah, I would say growing our business from the inside, I think now is what we're going to be doing. And I would assume that that's going to, looking as far ahead as I can, which might only be till next Tuesday, but we're going to have to hire more employees and grow in that facet. So I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So
Yeah. Well, so I've got today for marketing. Is most of your stuff like? Do you get word of mouth and referral? Is that how you get most of your clients today?
we are, I would say, yeah. Most of our new business comes from word of mouth. We have actually had some success with being on Shopify's expert marketplace.
Yeah.
We get random requests from people all over asking for help, and usually we like project work's okay. Sometimes, a lot of times it exceeds the scope, but project work usually turns into retainer work for us, which is what we like. So Shopify's marketplace has helped out tremendously in that. It gives us visibility on it lets someone else talk about you rather than you talk about yourself like you do on your website.
Yeah.
Can only use so many marketing buzzwords and
Right.
but yeah,
So, and finally, in companies that you're working with, I'm just out of curiosity, you have a company that comes to you that either has an e-commerce presence or is about to start one. What are some of the common, like this is kind of a soapbox moment for you? What are the things that you see that they're doing really poorly? Like where do they start? And you're like, I wish you had called me earlier, or you're making this one tragic mistake that over and over again.
just relative to marketing or
I think the econ, let's sort of like putting in a e-commerce engine.
Okay, yeah. A lot of people who have a good idea or at least a good concept for a business online that has seen some success, when they plateau, most of their limitations are due to their operational restrictions. It's how they have a clunky operational process for how, even down to product structuring and navigation on their site. It's just, I get it. I understand how they get there, especially with smaller businesses, but they are serving as every part. They're the head of finance, head of marketing, CEO. They're running every facet of the business, so they're not able to put as much attention to detail into every little focus. And I think a lot of times the structure of a website is key in growing a business. And if that's your foundation, and if you don't have that, then you can't grow.
Yeah.
But then also a lot of people are I think just spread too thin across on the digital field. They don't have consistent messaging, more from a marketing and public relations standpoint. They don't have consistent messaging. Email communication is all over the place. Really, I mean, those are two of the biggest things that people struggle with. But you'd be surprised at when we take a look at someone's site and just how big of a mess that it is, and things that we do on a daily basis. You don't realize that, okay, this business owner that sells 20 different types of soap that they hand make and that handmade for 3 years in their garage, they don't know how an e-commerce business or e-commerce website is structured, what the hierarchy of products should look like, how a customer would navigate for their product. And that's where we come in and say, hey, why don't you position things this way? You're spending too much time on wholesale, which is a whole nother beast for businesses. And we try and streamline those operations. Really, allow them to continue to have a small crew and run their business efficiently and be able to grow and handle growth. So.
Well, very cool. Well, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you all for having me.
Yeah, so we've been talking today with Gray Anderson. He is founders. What are you? What's the title?
Managing partner.
Managing partner. I like that. Flugel Consulting. You've been listening to Build Your Best Business. We focus on the entrepreneurial journey and coming to you from Charleston, South Carolina. What are you going to do until next time to build your best business?